Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm sharing my learnings with you so that you can learn and I can learn better as well. In this video, I have a Junglebook coaching session. Junglebook is a tier 1 PPC player. I did a pro chat with him not that long ago, and we went through some Q&A about this patch. We talked about the conditions to get into Shadow Isles, world runes, how to approach world runes, and similar to, I think it was 2 or 3 sets ago, playing Crate Tracker, like, are there any default comps that you might want to lean into? How to approach slamming items in the early game, especially as the emblems have gotten stronger. How to approach emblem augments, given that emblems are quite strong in this patch. And then we kind of did a deep dive into how to approach streaming and going on VC while piloting a game, since I'm starting to do that more in TFT Dojo, particularly after Wei Jin's feedback in my pro chat with him about how this is one of the best ways to get better at the game. And Jungle Book was also saying that he does this very frequently in his study group. So this is a methodology of just like jumping on VC that I was not aware of before that I'm going to actively try to do more of, and that I've already found helpful so far. And if you actually want to join me on these VC study sessions, I'm going to be publicly streaming it on my Twitch. Just learning TFT on Twitch. So I'm pretty new at streaming, so I try to check every now and then at the chat, but I'm not great at it so far. So you can. I apologize in advance if I don't respond to your messages right away, but I definitely love like kind of hanging out. So come join me there. Usually, I'm going to be streaming probably in during like kind of the workday in Pacific time. So and so far I've been streaming around 1 p.m. Pacific. We also did a session on TFT Dojo, the 2-1 augment selection tool that I built. If you want to join, apply to the dojo, go to tftdojo.com. You can get on the waitlist. And then stage 4 focus, we did like a deep dive into that, reminiscent of some of my old videos with Marcel. I'm going to try to do a little bit more focus areas in coaching as well. But we went through a bunch of games, stage 4, where we stopped the game at 3-7 to kind of come up with a game plan around when are we going to level, when are we going to roll, how much are we going to roll, when do we stop rolling. So a lot of these questions. And some of the big takeaways that I got from the session were really paying far more attention to my HP to guide a lot of these decisions, as well as scouting more actively to determine my board strength relative to the lobby and specifically my pool, and understanding my board's cap and what placement I'm going for. So, for example, Ionia and AP Demacia are level 8 boards that really want to win stage 4. It's reminiscent of Prodigy Yumi from set 15, that like in those situations, you gotta win that stage. It's kind of like one cost reroll. You know you're going to be strong early, and you're going to typically tap out at that strength later. So you need to be strong in like stage 3, stage um, early part of stage 4, right? Or two cost reroll, like you gotta be strong in stage 3. You kind of dip, you get strong when you get your 3 stars, and then you kind of dip again. So really understanding when your board is supposed to be strong and how strong it is relative to the caps, your relative board strength to your pool. And so actually this should be relative to pool in the present and lobby cap. All right. So that's on the docket for the coaching session. Before I dive into that, I'm going to do the meta mindset of the day. This one's "You are already safe." This is a psychological philosophical segment that should help you get better at TFT, but can also apply to your life using TFT as a metaphor for life. If you want to jump straight to the Jungle Book coaching session, take a look at the timestamp in the description below. So this meta mindset is connected with the big kind of lesson I learned in Paris. I talked about that in detail in my post Paris video. And for more context, the TLDR of it is that my childhood conditioning was I had to be excellent, I had to achieve in order to be safe. And if I made any mistakes or I failed, my mom would yell at me, my dad would make me stand in the corner. My dad would also yell at me. It was pretty, like, not as traumatic as probably many childhoods go, but it felt traumatic for me. And um, I'm still learning how to kind of remove the chains of that conditioning. And so a question that I've been posing myself is, where am I still trying to earn safety through excellence? And so I've gotten more aware of this, and I understand this rationally, but there's plenty of situations in life where you understand something rationally, but the feeling and compulsivity and the emotional layering is what drives your behavior oftentimes. It's the um, according to, I forget what the psychologist's name is. It's like Daniel Kahneman wrote a book about this. System one versus system two thinking. System one thinking is where it's like compiled code, as opposed to system two is just in time computation, where system one is the super fast, instinctive, gut feeling based decision making, where you kind of are on autopilot. And a lot of my life around this idea of achievement and performance in order to attain a sense of safety has been system one. And so even if you understand rationally that I have earned my freedom, that's actually one of our family values. Um, I don't need to be excellent all the time to have this feeling of sense of safety, of being loved. Like, I have two beautiful children. They say I love you, daddy, all the time. My wife says I love you to me all the time. If I don't perform in TFT, they don't really care. Like, my son gets a little upset, more so because I get upset. Um, and uh, so much of this lately is like I have a clinging to like wanting to perform because it just brings up a lot of the memories of my childhood. And it also reminds me of the parable of the elephant and the steak. The story goes that, like, when a baby elephant is at the circus, they'll tie it to a rope and a stake in the ground, and the baby elephant tries to break free of that stake, and it can't. And so over time, it learns this sense of helplessness, that the boundary of the circle around the stake is the boundary of its life, basically. And as it gets older and it gets stronger and is clearly able to rip the stake out of the ground, it no longer attempts to do so because it has that system one thinking has just taken over, and it no longer questions that core assumption about its entire life. And that's still true for me as far as this sense of, like, I feel like I need to perform, need to achieve, I need to be excellent in order to have a sense of safety, because that's what I needed to do as a kid. And so Paris, I talked about in my other video, was in a way like kind of like a accidental ripping of the stake out of the ground for me, where even though I got knocked out on day one, people were coming up to me and just showing me love and appreciation and a sense of safety. And that like is, I think, in many ways configuring some of my system one thinking around this. And so I want to talk about some ideas related to that. Anthony DeMello said, suffering is caused by your clinging to illusions. And the illusion, in many ways, that I'm still clinging to is this sense that I need to be excellent or perform to be safe. And part of the illusion that is kind of the veil between me and what's actually true right now is that I am already safe. You are already safe. You are already safe. And it's by clinging to this illusion that I'm not already safe and that I need to achieve excellence to be safe. That is the root cause of my suffering. A lot of pain. And part of and I'll talk about this in a little bit, maybe resistance to me letting go of this illusion is like a large part of my identity has been attached to performance now. And then there's, I think, also some fear that if I don't hold on to this illusion, then maybe I won't actually be excellent or perform or achieve anymore. And I kind of enjoy doing, right? So there are some byproducts of this second order effects that I'm like trying to work through about like how can I still have many of the positives that I've learned to enjoy about having become an achiever that maybe does not require the core illusion or belief that I'm not safe and that I have to perform in order to get that sense. But maybe how can I be excellent without needing to feel like I need to be excellent to be safe? Because sometimes, and like what happened at Paris was, and what happened to me in childhood when I played high school basketball or played on my high school chess team, like when we went to tournaments, that degree of pressure to feel safe by performing would oftentimes take me beyond the zone of comfort where I would um, not actually be able to perform as optimal. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And part of becoming who you are, going back to the elephant example, is to let go of the illusion, right? It's to exercise your true freedom. And part of what prevents you from being who you truly are is the clinging to the illusions, the clinging to your past, the maybe lack of awareness of how your past continues to influence your present. And so like doing that introspection process is what Jung calls the privilege of a lifetime. Epictetus, an ancient Greek philosopher, said, what disturbs men's minds is not events, they're judgments on events. It's not the outside world that bothers you, it's your perception of the outside world. And this connects in the sense that a lot of times, if my goal is safety through excellence, and excellence sometimes is outside my control, like getting knocked out in day one at the Paris Open, what Epictetus would say is that the thing that actually bothers me is not me low rolling at the Paris Open. In that case, it was like at that point, Void was very strong, and I went in with a game plan to go for Void, but I only had one spot out of 4 games that like that made sense, and it ended up being a contested game. And so I could say that like I didn't get the spot, I didn't get natural 2 Void, except for that last game. Actually, I think I got it off of the 2-1 Void Augment. Um, and I could blame it externally. I could blame myself, but more importantly, the judgment here is that I believe in this thing. I believe that safety through excellence is like a core foundation of my perception of reality, and also that I am not safe as a core belief. And so it's my judgment of what the world is, not necessarily the world itself that is causing me the pain and suffering. Marcus Aurelius said, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. So, similar idea to Epictetus, that when we view the cause of our suffering as the thing outside of us, that then becomes the thing that has control over us. We become the victim to the external world. But when we can flip that on its head and say, no, it's not actually the thing outside of me that is bothering me, but rather what I think about it, and I have the control to change what I think about it, then you recapture your agency and power and become the hero that can overcome the hurdle that's out there, as opposed to being the victim that is subject to the thing out there. So, like the elephant in the steak example, the thing that pains the elephant, I don't know that this is the perfect analogy, but even if the elephant feels frustrated by being contained by the steak, it is like there could also be many elephants, maybe most of them, that are just learn to be okay with the steak, right? Um, so I don't know that that's the perfect example. Marcus Aurelius also says, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. And this can kind of feel a little bit naive to me. Um, and like for someone that is actually going through significant physical harm, this seems a little bit hollow. But at the same time, there's like Buddhist monks that meditate, and there's like the famous photo of the monk that set fire to himself as a way to protest. And in many ways, that is a physical example of someone actually going through severe physical pain, but that has trained their mind to not feel harmed. I don't want a monk on fire image. I want to see, yeah, like this guy. By the way, sorry if I jumped you into a painful physical image. Like, feel free to jump ahead if this bothers you. But I do think it drives home a point. Like this guy burned himself to death at a busy intersect in Saigon in 1963 as a way to protest, and it went viral around the world. And this was a way to fight oppression. And if we look at the expression on his face, like, I mean, he looks like he is in some pain, but it doesn't look like he's truly suffering in agony. And that, I think, is what is meant by Aurelius's idea of choose not to be harmed. Because if this monk can do that as he's dying from being burned, then it kind of gives me hope that that is possible, not just on a physical level, but for sure on a mental level. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the wise man in the storm prays to God not for safety from danger, but for deliverance from fear. And I think this flips kind of my basic assumption on its head a little bit. That perhaps the clinging to safety through excellence may be disguising some underlying fear I have. And that makes it harder for me to let go of this core stake. So perhaps in the elephant analogy, perhaps it is not so much that the elephant does not learn that it's not strong enough or that it is strong enough. Perhaps the elephant actually does learn that it's strong enough to rip the stake out of ground. But maybe what is holding the elephant back from ripping the stake out of the ground is not so much sense of safety, but rather potentially the fear that if it does rip the stake out of the ground, um, it's fear of the unknown. It's fear of entering into something new. And in a TFT context, I think that is fairly common when we get into a play pattern of like being familiar with certain comps and being uncomfortable with trying something new and falling on our face and looking stupid. Or for me, I think another quote that has resonated is the idea that perhaps what I'm afraid of is not being small, but of being big, of actually achieving and being excellent. Because another complexity layer of my childhood was I have a younger brother that's 1 year younger than me, and my mom would compare us all the time. And so whenever I exceeded too much, it would make my brother marginalized and he would suffer as a result. And so I kind of had to learn how to straddle this middle ground of performing an achievement so that I can feel safe and not being too excellent so that I would make my brother have to suffer excessively. And that has been part of the fear for me. And so that I think is one potential fear that is limiting me. But the quote goes that it's not so much our fear that our yeah, it's not so much our darkness that frightens us, it is our light. It is the sense that we could be powerful that maybe frightens us even more. So the elephant may be okay or comfortable, or I've learned to be comfortable with having the stake in the ground and feeling kind of small and not strong. But maybe what actually scares us is what it might be if we could truly be who we are, as Carl Jung said. That if we could truly release our illusions and not be harmed, maybe we're afraid of what we look like in a powerful, truly free, calm state. Um, and it takes a lot of self introspection to ask these questions. But I hope that this meta mindset allows you to explore your mind a little bit, to explore these questions about what illusions might you have been clinging to, um, what might be the equivalent of my safety through excellence for me, or the elephant with that stake. What is your stake in your personal situation from your childhood that you learned that maybe is preventing you from being who you truly are, that maybe is causing you a lot of suffering, and that is a judgment on the external world that is in your power to wipe out now, and that may be causing you harm, and that you maybe, with awareness, can have a choice here. And also, what might you be afraid of that may be holding you back from exploring all of it? I'd love you hear your thoughts on this meta mindset in the comments below. Um, with that said, we'll jump into Junglebook's coaching session with the Q&A, the stage 4 focus, and the TFT Dojo reps. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Too much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I unfortunately I didn't like do super well in the first cup, but that's okay. Yeah, I learned a good amount. So
Yeah.
yeah,
By the way, are you cool with me recording this and publishing to YouTube?
yeah, that's fine by me.
Awesome. Was there anything in particular that you feel like you learned from this cup that you're kind of gonna take into the next one?
Um, hmm. Honestly, I think a lot of my like what I was lacking was like meta understanding for this cup.
Mm.
I think that I just didn't have a perfect read, and I didn't have like reps on like every meta comp because I wasn't like sure what the meta would be.
Yeah.
At least 100, the entire meta, because it was so soon after a patch, and like yeah, I kind of rushed to cram in practice on every line, but like for example during the tournament it was the first time I played like I got like an echo reroll spot, and the first time I
Mm.
got a Bilgewater Rise spot, and like it was just I think next time what I'll do in scrims is in scrims I was playing like I felt like I was playing the absolute best line for my spot each game, but maybe like I'll go a little bit more out of my way to like try to like force like and just make sure I get a rep or two on like each line. I think that
Mm.
might be something that I do next time.
Hmm.
Um, but luckily, next cup, the patch is like a week before the cup, so I think I usually tend to do better in like those scenarios rather than like 2 days after a patch. But
Yeah.
um, everybody was on the same playing field, so you know, obviously I can't like blame that. But I do think that historically those are like a little bit better for me personally.
Yeah. When you're playing on a normal patch and prepping for a tournament and there are new lines, like do you usually study them and VOD review every line, like or at least get a decent understanding of it before you start playing it? Or do you kind of are you more of an experimenter and learn as you go like kind of player?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I would definitely say I'm more towards the side of like playing and trying to get the feel for myself.
Mhm.
However, I think that obviously it's a different approach and different like things work well for different people. Obviously, I think that there's a lot of great players out there that would say they observe and watch a lot more. But me personally, I feel like I trust my own opinion a lot, and I think that getting my own like valuable experience on a new comp is very good. And then I might supplement that. If I feel like I might be lacking or I'm something's not clicking with the comp, I might supplement that after with watching and trying to understand like what I might be doing wrong, or like what small things I could be optimizing better.
Mm. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I got a bunch of questions, and then I figure I would like to focus on stage four a little bit. So maybe we can
Sure.
go through a bunch of games I've played and just jump to maybe start of stage four and try to think about like what the game plan is, what the ideal target board is, given the amount of gold we have, like when stop rolling and when to try to greed for 9.
Sure. Yeah, that's a
And then
great.
depending on how we're doing on time, we could also do some TFT Dojo puzzles.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. So first question, Shadow Isles. What Broseph was saying he's only willing to play Shadow Isles from Viego 2 on 1.4. Do you agree with
Mhm.
that? And if so, what slams are you willing to make at that point?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that approach, like of 1.4 being a baseline for. I think the reason is, in my experience at least, when the average game where you're killing a decent amount of units every fight or winning, um, I think that that puts you on perfect pace to unlock Gwen by after 2-6, like 3-1. And then that will often help you get threshed by the end of stage 4. If things are going super well, you might get it on like 4-6, but I think typically you'll get it fielded on your board by 5-1 with that pacing. So I think that's typically why I agree as well that 1.4 is a decent baseline. In my experience, that's puts you on good pace to farm the souls to get Thresh in a timely manner. Um,
When did you
in
say
terms
you
of
expect
what,
to unlock Thresh by? I didn't catch that.
I think it's typically going to be after like the 4-6 fight. And then like games where you're doing super well, it might be like 4-5, 4-6, but I think that's very, very rare. So usually it's going to be after 4-6, and then you'll field it in your first combat on 5-1.
Okay.
Mhm. Um, And I do think that in terms of items, I think the most important thing is that you slam your best like early item for Viego. I think that's very very important because I think this comp you need to be winning with, and as a result, yes, you an item for example like Infinity Edge on Viego can get the job done, and it obviously does segue pretty decently into Kalista. But I think if you're given the choice between like Bloodthirster and Infinity Edge, I think you would prefer the sustain or like the survivability option because that's just Viego's strength in early game, right? Is the fact that the fights are long, the damage is pretty low, so he can kind of take over by infinitely ramping and casting multiple times. Um, so I do believe like building those types of items on him is a little bit better because they can later go on like Gwen or Ambessa in stage 4, and then eventually Thresh is like ideal. Um, but that being said, I do think like Vigo is rather flexible in terms of what items you can put on him. He can function decently with AP and AD items.
Mhm.
So I think that just slamming your strongest early game slams, and then maybe starting in stage 3 is when you might start thinking about like, okay, maybe I'll make like this Last Whisper or Strikers for Kalista or Deathblade, whatever it may be. And Viego can typically hold all of them at least decently with his the nature of his spell.
Okay, and what? Let's say you have a Viego too. In what spots are you not going to slam and go down this Shadow Isles line, or are you, for the most part, like 90% plus going to take that line?
Yeah, I think that is a question of that's a question of if you have direction towards like a better line. Like for example, if you have Twisted Fate, that's a super obvious example, but that is like a good that's a good way to put it is like if you have a better direction towards a better line. Another example could be like Gold Ionia maybe, and you have a strong start for that. Um, I think the strength of or the nice thing about Viego 2 is that it gives you instant direction, and you just know from 2-1 what you're going to play. You know, you have an idea leading into the 2-1 augment as well, what comp you might be playing, which is often a big advantage. Um, and it very often leads to you making a better decision right in the augment selection.
Mhm.
Um, so I think for that reason, it's going to be when it's kind of the only thing that I feel my opener really has. Like maybe it's my only upgrade, or um maybe I don't really have a good foundation for any other type of comp at the moment. And I think typically that's when I'll be playing Shadow Isle. And I don't think that um I don't think it's a bad line at all. And again, I think that the real important like key to success is building good items on your Viego early, and making sure that you're able to win most fights early. That's like the very important key.
Okay, so then maybe part of this win not to take is if you scout lobby and the lobby seems very strong as well.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, and then maybe you don't have like the best slam for Viego. Like maybe you have like cloak tier rod. I feel like that would be a little weird because I wouldn't be certain what you should make. Like maybe you could make like a spark for Viego for Thresh later, but um, I think that that's a good point. Yeah, if you notice the lobby's super accelerated, examples of this could be like in the upgraded champion galaxy. Like if people if your upgraded champion's Viego, but you like really don't hit anything else, and then other people have like multiple upgrades on their board. I have noticed that. I have like a clear memory of that where I was playing the upgrade champion portal, and I was like, wow, everybody is just like so ridiculously strong. So that could be something to factor in because I really don't think you want to play Shadow Isles from behind. Um, and then also like playing it contested is very questionable as well. So that's probably like another thing that I would factor in is if I'm contested or not, because I think that I have seen I have seen and heard that the line is kind of picking up in terms of AVP and play rate slightly over the past few days, but um, I'm still unsure if it's a line that is competitive in the meta if it's contested. So I think that's like another thing to be very careful
Mm.
about.
Okay, so all of like Viego's good items you're willing to just slam.
Yeah, I think in general, yes. The ones I would prefer are probably like the healing items like BT Hodge because those are just always extremely good on Thresh. Um, I think generally, Callista items can be fine on Viego as well. So that's going to be things like Strikers. You could build IE. You could build Last Whisper. Giant Slayer. I've even like I've even I'll admit this was a while back, maybe a couple weeks ago, but I had an early game where I had like Shojin on him or like it was some mana item, and honestly, like just the fact that he was just spamming out his ult so quickly, it didn't seem like terrible, but I do think the guaranteed like survivability ones will be the best early game. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Okay, cool.
And
Oh yeah.
mhm,
Go
mhm.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like these stats are likely a lot heavily tailored towards Viego 3, which means
Yeah.
like things like Titans, if it's your only item on your Viego 2, it's kind of like while that's based on a Viego 3 that has two other items to supplement the Titans, it just be a little careful about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
They'll
yeah,
just
Titans
die
will obviously get way better.
before, yeah.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly.
And if you don't have healing to, yeah, get that back up.
Mhm. Exactly. Mhm.
Okay. World runes. What's your kind of default game plan with world runes? Do you like this kind of also reminds me of what was that augment from Exotech
Oh, was it
set?
Trade Tracker?
Yeah.
Trade
Like
Tracker. Yeah,
there
yeah.
was kind of like a default game plan. I think one of the things I run into with world runes is I struggle between trying to remain flexible to see what like additional augments or
Mhm.
additional emblems it will give me, and so like trying to slam more flexibly versus just like
Per-
which sacrifices I think a lot of my early game and health
mhm.
versus just being like, okay, I'm going to play maybe what's strong now and just whatever will save me HP versus like I'm going to slam items that lean in like maybe a default direction, like Ionia
Right.
Freljord, for example. What's your approach to that with World Rune?
That's a very good question. So I do think that with the change to emblems, let me just preface this by saying I think prior to this patch, it was common to be on the lower side of HP in terms of after like let's say around 3-5, just out of the early game, because the emblems were not as strong as they are now, right? And I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to be like 5 or like 8 or 10 streaking with world runes, but I do think the buff to the emblems on average helps your early game a lot. And I've seen a lot of games where people are coming out of the early game with a lot more health now. And I think that's just a big advantage. So for that reason, I think because you have the strength of the emblems to back you up, um, obviously they provide higher value in terms of stats. This patch, I really think that trying to build and slam like strong board and strong items early on is just important. Like I think you should abuse the fact that the emblems are solid items now, right? Like you should abuse that as much as possible and try to use that to your advantage because and if you're able to cheat out, like let's say like a 3 streak or even just win a majority of your fights early before you cash out, that's already going to be such a massive advantage because obviously that's kind of when you're supposedly like sacking is when you're trying to play 4 trades early on and catch out the big catch out. Um, and also I think another underrated part of that is just the healthier you are. The more time and just the more comfortable you feel right after you cash out. It's not the reality is it's not always easy and you're not always going to perform like a robot and like find the perfect board because I'll admit it can be very very difficult to get to the final board sometimes just depending on what your items are and just like your emblems, right? It can be often busy. That's like a good way to put it. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that having that insurance is also very valuable, honestly, and like that shouldn't be overlooked because the odds that you will make a mistake one round and maybe have to like sack the round later on are honestly decent, at least in my opinion, and from my experience. So I do think trying to slam good early game items is or obviously there's no like one objective good early game item, but good early game items for your board and what makes sense for your board I think is very very key. So in terms of what carries you can be playing for, I think it's rather flexible for that reason. It's going to be typically based around your emblems, and also it's going to be based around what items you slam. So, for example, I think for AP, like very commonly, it's going to be like something along the lines of Lysandra or Seraphine. Like you said, Freljord can often be a very good splash. I also think that Seraphine is like very often easy to play because playing two Piltover, I feel like on World Runes boards especially is super valuable. I just think that with the fawn and like with the extra unit, I think that getting like the team wide buff could be really strong. Obviously, Blast Shield is like probably a prime example of this. Like just getting a shield on that extra unit on your board from the fawn that you get is super valuable. Um, so yeah, I think Lysandra and Seraphine are common. And then another one you could even do is like AP Kaisa. If you so happen to have those types of items, I think that Kaisa can easily be splashed with Void, like two Void and just like two Long Shot. If you have no other options, like let's say you have like Ginsu and like AP items or something. Um, and then for the AD side of things, I do think that generally it's going to be Yunara as like your primary like backline AD carry. In terms of exactly why that is, I think it's probably because of the ease of access to Set. I just think that that helps a lot with the cap, and Set can like function with like a lot of he can perform well with the stats from a lot of the emblems. I think. And I just think that Yunara tends to be pretty easy to play towards if you're slamming the powerful like the Ginsu early on, which is obviously a very very strong item in the early game. So I think that's typically the like the premier backline carry, and that's because like Misfortune, I feel like is often reliant on a Bilgewater start, like in order to function at her highest. I really think. But maybe if you have like the perfect items for Misfortune, somehow maybe that could work as like a level 8 carry. But I wouldn't recommend that as much for the AD path.
Okay, that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
And so, therefore, if you are leaning towards Piltover, Freljord, Ionia, usually I imagine your
Mhm.
unlock path is going towards Kennen, um, Shinzao, like Poppy, that line.
Yes, that's another important thing to talk about is how to cash it out. And yes, like obviously you're familiar with that. I do think that's typically what you should be aiming for. Like the Zinzao. The Zinzao is like obviously a very important piece in playing Demacia, Ionia, Yordle, Targon. Um, However, this could change a bit, and to be honest, it's often hard to get Kennen by 3-2, which I think is usually when you want to get World Runes in. By the latest, by the way, is 3-2. That way you could have it cashed out 4-4, like by 4-1, right? Or sorry, after 3-6, so you have it cashed out on neutrals. Um, I I do think it's often hard to get your hands on Kennen, so that's when you might have to it's going to depend on your emblems, right? Like for example, if you have a Piltover emblem, that's very helpful because you can just splash in one extra unit to get a trait. Same with a Void. And then sometimes there's other things you can do where, for example, I had like a Zaun emblem one game, and I found it easy to actually cash it out with Vi because I was playing Vi for Zaun, obviously, and then it was easy to play like one Piltover with her as well. So I think that I think just kind of being uh, ready and able to work around the emblems that you get is generally good. And kind of something you could do with that is you can just like take like if you have downtime and you're curious about more world runes, is like obviously you can watch and see how people are cashing it out. But another thing is you can look at the emblems, right? You can look at every emblem and just kind of get an idea of which early game ones can really help you easily cash out, right? And also just thinking about if I get X, Y, or Z emblem, what early game units could potentially work. Um, I think that helps a lot, and I think the last thing I would like to say about this is very often um, you might have to level assuming you can't unlock Kennen by 3-2, which is honestly pretty common. I think that you might have to level to 7 to you have to take an econ augment on 3-2 and level to 7 on 3-2 if that's what it takes to fit all of your traits. I really think it's worth it to get the cash out in by 3-2. If that's what it takes and you drop down to, let's say, 10 gold or maybe even less in some games, but ideally it would probably be 10 with an econ augment. I think that that is completely fine if it means that you're going to cash out on neutrals. Getting the cash out earlier is valuable, and also getting the neutrals to have time to think about what you're going to make and what comp you're going to, what units you're going to play towards is very, very valuable. So, does that kind of answer
Yeah, yeah.
everything you were wondering about World
That's
Runes?
really
Okay, awesome.
helpful. Yep.
Okay, awesome.
So next question related to that is,
Mhm,
what's your default game plan with augments that give you a bunch of emblems? So like, let's say,
mhm,
what was it, spreading roots or like flexible? I forget what other augments fall in this category. But
mhm.
ones in which maybe you have a reforger, or you think you might get more later. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, it's I think this especially applies to flexible on 2-1. Like, are
Mhm.
there lines that you want to prioritize angling that are better with a bunch of emblems, than other lines that maybe aren't as good with emblems?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, Exotech Zero is like a great example of that, where it was so good with a bunch of emblems, and I kind of felt that way.
Hmm.
Um, to me, I think this set, my impression so far is I think that with emblem augments, I think you really want to play around the like for example, let's say you take spreading roots on 2-1, which is like the classic, like that's like the prismatic that gives 3 emblems or the gold that gives 2 emblems. I think that I mean obviously if it's a super obvious combination, like let's say like Quick Striker Ionia, I feel like you're going to be playing Ionia most of the time there. Or maybe you get like Slayer Vanquisher. That could be another example of one that it seems very easy to play toward, natural to play towards some Slayer board, right? I think if it's super obvious like that, then that's great, and I think generally you will probably just know if it's 2 emblems that pair very well together. You'll generally just know that that's probably what I should be trying to play. But with trait tree, this is another scenario is like with trait tree, the prismatic, which gives 3 emblems. It's gonna be more scenarios where it's 3 emblems that don't necessarily match with each other like perfectly, right? Obviously, like there's infinite combinations of it, but maybe you get Freljord and Bilgewater. It's hard to fit all of them together. I think if that's the case, you just have to pick like 1 or 2 to play around, or maybe 2 of them synergize together. And I think you just commit to it. I think you just commit to trying to play around 1 or 2 of them, and then you kind of sack the third one. Like I wouldn't go out of my way to like try to like cook a board that is playing every like involving every single emblem in at the cost of playing like worse units. Like for example, if you're trying to like force a Bilgewater to like force onto your board, um onto your failure board, and you're trying to play like these like lesser units like maybe Twisted Fate and Ash to synergize them together, or maybe even Nautilus, maybe Nautilus for Warden. But I don't think that it's always worth it to do that. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I would really recommend just picking one line and committing to it and going all in on that line, because the reality is, like you said, you can get reforgers later on, and I think that most lines, Freljord, Ionia, even Noxus, I feel like a lot of these like vertical lines can really use a good amount. I think that they can use a good amount of splash pieces. Like they're like, if you think about those lines, like Gnosis, there's like Defender, Quick Striker, Invoker, Bruiser, Arcanist even, for Vanquisher as well. For Freljord, there's Defender, Warden, Quick Striker. Like all of the lines have decent value emblems, in my opinion, and a good amount of them at that. So I think that just committing to your I think committing to your best combination out of the early game is what I'm really looking for. In terms of flexible, I think flexible is like a little bit harder to have a concrete game plan around, because obviously it is super variable, and is super variable based on the game. That's just the reality. Um, but I think generally flexible is, you really prefer on 2-1, it would be really nice if you just get an emblem that you can play around. Like, for example, a good example would be like one of the region traits, Gnosis, for like the ones I'm mentioning, Frilly or Bilgewater. I think just if you get one of those region traits on 2-1, I'm super happy, because I think it just lets you commit, and play towards that comp. And then later on, you're going to be holding on to every reforger, because what you're going for reforging 2 or 3 emblems later on that you're not really using, and the odds that one of them turns into something usable, or one if not more, right? The odds that one if not more of the emblems turns into something usable is honestly pretty decent. So I do think that you're typically going to be looking for that. Yeah, like the first region trait that you get, hopefully by 2-1 or 3-1, is going to be the comp that uh you're playing a lot of time, I think. But that being said, I just want to reemphasize, it's never going to be cookie cutter with that augment, and I think that um kind of doing it yourself, or playing it yourself, and also seeing other people play it, is going to be kind of the best way to go about it, getting the hands-on experience.
What about
Um,
region traits make them the primary emblem that you want to commit your like strategy around
mhm.
compared to other
That's a
emblems?
great question. I think to me, at least what my gut tells me, or the reason I think, like, my intuition says that those are nice to have, I think it's just for direction. I think it's for direction. I think it's because if you're able to commit early as 2-1 or maybe 3-1, it just gives you a really good idea of, you instantly know what your stage 4 carry is going to be. You instantly know what carries you're playing towards. And you also know, like, what supporting units, like 1 and 2 costs, you need to be trying to hold in the early game, right? I think that's probably the reason, if I had to put into words, why I feel like these region emblems are super nice to have from like flexible, and also those are like the nice ones to play around from trade tree, because I just think that the direction it gives you, and it's kind of like if we took emblems out of the equation, and we just talked about like line selection in general, and just like committing to a line early, it's always a super nice feeling when you know what you're playing from 2-1, and I feel like that guides your decisions, right? And it guides your item choices and augments and everything like that. And now, if we bring emblems back into the equation, I feel like it's like a similar idea, where you just know what you're playing, and for that reason, you're able to make better decisions throughout the game. And I think that it's not, yeah, it's not a bad thing to commit early with these emblems, if it's like if it's obvious, and you have a good idea or a good opener for one of the emblems. But that's kind of exact. Yeah, that's kind of how I would put into words, like, exactly why I feel the region emblems are slightly better. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
awesome.
cool. Next question.
Mhm.
I One of the things I kind of learned from Paris is I get
Mhm.
that was my first like in-person tournament, so I definitely had
Yeah.
like some jitters. So I'm trying to experiment with streaming a little bit more. But I
Mhm.
also just did a pro chat with Weijin yesterday, and one of the things he talked
Okay.
about was doing VC and study group. So I'm gonna experiment with that. But I'm curious how you view streaming as far as it relates to like being able to learn. I know there's like a
Mhm.
distinction between like streaming on Twitch to like entertain an audience and like a, build an audience as opposed to uh like going on VC with some people in a group that you trust and like
Mhm.
trust their decision making and thought process and like can bounce ideas around. Um
Right.
what's been your kind of like how much have you done that and what's your thought process around that?
Yeah. Yeah. Super great question. Honestly, I think this is something that I do almost daily now. Like I think that well, let me preface this by saying I think yeah, you want to be I feel like it would be ideal to be comfortable with the people that you're uh sharing with, and also just having confidence, I guess, in their like skills. I mean, obviously, I assume that you do have people like that, but I think that's important to to note first of all. But it is actually something that I think I do close to daily now. At least either watching somebody play and kind of like we say like backseating, but obviously it's like kind of like we're both bouncing ideas and both kind of contributing to the game, or sharing my own game and uh getting ideas from my peers, right? Like that's like the general practice, and this is something I do very often. I think that um, I think that at the very high level of play, this is generally a good thing. I think especially on new patches, this is very good because we've kind of talked about it in the past, but I just think the amount of knowledge that one person is able to absorb, it's just impossible. I think, especially maybe 1 or 2 days into a patch, it's impossible for one person to uh, absorb more and compile more knowledge than like 3 people or 4 people, right? And I just think that that breadth between the 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 of your trusted peers, is super valuable. And this could even be the case a week into the patch or a week and a half into the patch, even very far into the patch. You could still be learning different things, like maybe certain X item is good on Y champion, or X artifact is very good on this hero. I mean, like these are things that you. It's just impossible to have a complete 100% understanding of the patch, and that's where I think um, interacting with others is so valuable to me. I really believe this. Now, all of this is not to say that playing by yourself is not useless, because I would definitely be remiss to say that I'm playing at like my absolute highest level. Maybe when I'm screen sharing, like I wouldn't be surprised if I make like more execution errors, and so for that reason, you're not gonna like just like climb every single time you screen share. Obviously, like that's just not the reality. But the value is in what you learn, right? And I think then you want to try to take what you learn, and then that way when you're playing by yourself, you are fully focused, you're fully locked in. I think that that's the times where that kind of interaction time with your friends or your peers pays off. And I think very often that's where you're able to perform uh that's the time where you're looking to like improve your performance, right? Like that's the whole point of learning and bouncing ideas around with other people.
Mm.
um yeah, so that's kind of like my take on it, and I think that this is yet another thing, another practice where a balance is key, and I think that just finding the balance that works for you um, in terms of results, and also just in terms of like your own enjoyment. Like if you enjoy playing by yourself more, or if you enjoy screen sharing to peers more, it's going to depend on the individual. And uh, for example, like it definitely makes it, for me it makes it more fun to play and watch when I'm working with other people personally, but I could definitely see the other way around too. Like maybe you would prefer to just you would prefer the time spent like playing by yourself, fully focused, right? So
Mhm.
I think finding a balance is generally good, and I wouldn't go all in into screen sharing 100% of your games, but um, I do think that experimenting with that and kind of uh, really thinking about what your personal preferences are for that is the way to go. Um,
Okay, how do you think
yeah,
about like yesterday was actually the first time I experimented with this, and I actually enjoyed it a lot. One of the
it's
things
great.
though is that it could get kind of overwhelming sometimes. Where I think there were like 8 people on the VC, and like 3 or 4 people were saying things at the same time, and then they were saying different things. And so I'm
Right,
obviously trying to incorporate and listen to people's inputs, but I'm also trying
right.
to make my own decision too. And while I was
Hmm.
doing it, I was definitely not in the mode of like, oh, I need absolutely need to execute perfectly and I have to
Hmm.
win. Like I was not going through that. But it could definitely be challenging to like make your own decision at the time, especially if people are like maybe giving inputs that maybe are different from your intuition or natural style of play.
Right.
How do you like kind of handle those situations?
Yeah, that's that's a very good point because I know exactly what you mean. Um, well, first of all, me personally, I do feel like 8 people trying to speak is a bit much. That's what it sounds like to me. But obviously, if that's how many peers and friends that you have, and that's how many people are participating, then that's great. Um, I might recommend like if you find it overwhelming, maybe you cut down each session to maybe like 5 people or even like 4 people. I think that could go a long way because I just think at some point there might be like diminishing returns in terms of in terms of just in terms of how much value like adding people, right, for sure, like in terms of how much value each person adds to the like discussion. And obviously that's not to say that you're like any of your peers are better than the others, but maybe just like if you have that many, like maybe just like you allot like maybe a couple games towards like a certain group, a certain number, let's say 3 to 4, and then maybe later on or another day you contact your other 3 or 4 peers and you try to meet with them because I just think that I just think the diminishing returns thing in terms of just interacting and trying to learn and operate with a bunch of people talking in the call is I think that's real, honestly, and I do think that maybe I would recommend trying like cutting down on the number of people per session. Um, However, yeah, that being said, I think a lot of time when I am backseating or screen sharing, like my game, I think a lot of time it's up to the player, the person piloting the game. I don't think you should feel bad about saying like, hey, like for this next like turn or two, like a very often point could be like 4-2 or 5-1 when you're pivoting to your level 8 or 9 board respectively. And like you're selecting your 4-2 augment. I think very often it's fine to just say like, hey, like I'm gonna really focus on these rounds. So like just like give me a sec and then maybe just make note of what you would have done differently, and what feedback you might have given. Like, did I miss something on the roll down? Or did I pick a certain augment incorrectly? Or maybe not necessarily incorrectly, but would you have picked something else, right? Um, I think that's very critical because these are points of the game that you really don't want to gloss over. And also from the watcher's perspective, I think it's very important for them to be diligent during this time and really be focusing on not only the augment selection but every decision in the roll down. Like for example, like when you decide to settle a unit, or if you decide to pivot during the roll down, or if you decide to put a certain unit on your board, whatever it may be. I think it's very important for the watchers as well, and I think it's very important for them to be focused during that time. So I don't think it's uncommon for like at least for me and like what my experience is like to be um for myself to be like quieter during these times. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that if you feel you're getting overwhelmed, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying like um I need to like really focus like these like next like this next turn or something, and can you guys just let me know afterwards after everything's done like what exactly you might have done differently. It could even be after the game, right? You could just ask them to take down like one or two key points or notes about uh the pivotal like early stage 4 rounds, for example. Um, so I wouldn't be afraid. Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to do that. And like you said, it was your like first time like trying this yesterday. I'm really glad you liked it. And honestly, it is something that I feel like it's easy to like and it's easy to get into because for me at least, it's just more enjoyable to be working with others. But it is very common. Yes, it is very common and I think over time, for example, for me, like when I'm watching people, I think I have a better idea of like when I'm just like, okay, probably around here is where I should just like shut up and let them do their thing. And then afterwards, we'll be able to really talk about what exactly the improvement points are, right? Um, I think just in terms of efficiency and yeah, just in terms of efficiency, I think this is like the much better approach, and I think that you will get a lot more bang for your buck, like just like time efficiency by having like the big discussion like afterwards, right? Like and like maybe going back in the VOD, like you have your VOD on like Outplayed or whatever recording software, and those pivotal, super pivotal rounds like 2-1 line selection, right? Like I said, 4-2 roll down, 5-1 roll down. That's usually really where you're going to be getting a lot of value, in my opinion. And doing this after the game, I think, is a much better like practice in general. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of
Okay,
sense. That's super helpful. Um,
awesome.
cool. I do want to get to some of these other stuff. I don't know that we have
Yeah,
maybe enough time to do a true deep dive into stage 4, so maybe we'll punt that and just do a little bit of TFT Dojo.
sure. Yeah, yeah, no, completely up to you. I mean, I have the time. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. But I'm fine with TFT Dojo as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I would like to get your perspective on it, and also how
Yeah,
you
of
think about making these decisions too. So um,
course.
yeah, why
Let's
don't we
do it.
do this? So let's see. We have Rumble to single component.
Hmm.
Interesting. Let's see. Now everyone's fully scouted.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I think
item components are stronger with fewer components.
mhm. That's probably
Um,
what I would be thinking as well. And with the pairs on bench as well, like you have Jarvan pair, Jin pair, Shen pair, Rumble 2 already as well. I think there's decent prospects to building a board, so I wouldn't
roll
hate
left.
I
I
do
think
think
it's
I would roll two trick. I do think I would roll two trick. The reason is the 2-star 2 cost is like much lower value when you can't itemize it. So
yeah.
I yeah, I would be between the middle and right. I think that I would probably prefer Woven a little bit more, but um I just think that it's a little bit safer. You're guaranteed to eventually cash out the components in a timely manner if you're playing a board. Whereas Prize Fighter, you're not super certain if the items that you get and the units that you get will like I don't think your opener is convincing enough to take it, basically.
Okay.
That's like
So if you
my
had like
intuition.
maybe at least one other 2-star now, then that would lean you more in the middle direction.
Yeah, I do think I do think it would be a lot more reasonable. I think like a Sona 2 would be a great example. Like if I had a Sona 2, Rumble 2, and then I know I can unlock Poppy, I think my board is pretty decent then. And I would likely be willing to take my chances on Prize Fighter then.
Okay.
Getting the
Or
two
even
components early.
like
Mhm.
a bow here with Draven could be strong, whereas it's like
Yeah,
unclear
yeah.
what.
That is true, yes, because like glove is like probably another thing you want to consider is like it's just hard to make good glove items early. I feel like making like a jewel gauntlet or a TG I guess would be okay, but there's a lot more outs with bow. I would say probably Ginsu, Kraken, Last Whisper. I mean Giant Slayer. There's probably like red buff. Um, I think bow generally has more there. But I think the really big thing is like yeah the strength of the board, and like I said, if I had Sona too, I'd be a lot more willing to like take Prize Fighter because the chances if I get two components, the chances that I can make a decent item for the opener are much higher than if I get one, right, with Woven. So
Yeah.
that would kind of be my intuition there. I feel like I would lean towards Woven a little bit.
Okay. And I've had a lot of success with this with the Scion Unlock LeBlanc opener with Invokers. I've
Yeah.
cashed out all three by end of stage three. Do you have an intuition on without Invokers and without a tier item slam, like when you would on average cash out the last component?
Yeah. I think if you have the really good setup, like you mentioned, I think like yeah, end of stage three, early stage four is typically good. Like that's gonna be Shojin blue adaptive on like an invoker. That's like a really good setup typically. But I think just playing it on like a your normal board, you're probably going to be cashing out the third component like around maybe like early to mid stage four. I is generally what I would think, but. I don't think woven magic is like a fantastic augment, but I think that if you're looking for items early and that's one of your better options, I think it's acceptable enough. That's basically the way I see it.
Okay.
Um,
So for this to really break even with this, you basically have to like 10 streak to get
I
the
mean,
same number of
yes,
components.
yes. The one other factor to consider about prize fighter though is just the fact that it gives two obviously it gives two up front,
Yeah.
so that could lead to a more favorable early game, right? So it's kind of just about I think that the reason I like Woven a bit more is just because you are kind of on the weaker side at the moment, and I don't think you're necessarily guaranteed to build an opener with what you have right now.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I think it's generally safer to take the scaling personally. Um,
So how forcible do you find Echo right now?
I think Echo is very good. I would prefer to take it with better items. I will say that.
Yeah.
I think Echo is a line you can lose into. Like you can. I feel like you can lose 5 or 6 rounds into hitting hitting most of your board on 3-2. Like two, sorry, most of your board on 3-2. Just because of how Singe works and unlocking Singe is decently important. I I don't think that in this spot I wouldn't be lenient. I think with just zero echoes. I mean, yes, you get a blitz pair, but zero echoes and having open glove, I'm not a super big fan. I think yes, you can lose with echo, but I think you would prefer to have a better item start for echo. So obviously that's going to be things like bows, chains, rods, even cloak is good. Sword is good. So I think I would want a better item start, and ideally, I would want like an Echo or a Vi as well, like just like some like more convincing start to Echo personally.
Okay.
Um,
So we're defaulting
yeah,
Woven here. Eat the
that is what
Flames,
mhm.
like is I think someone had mentioned to me is Sunfire is very good on Scion because he even after I guess he dies, he can still get the
He gets the
stats.
takedowns.
Yeah.
Yes. Sunfire is a very good item on him. I think that with Feed the Flames though, I think you really want a comp where you're going to get value out of the Omnivamp. And typically
Okay.
that's going to be
BP
like last
Slayers.
patch. Yes, exactly. Slayers. Echo is actually another example where like I've seen like on 3-2, you don't have anti-heal. The other options aren't super great. And maybe you don't have Omnivamp on your Echo yet. And I think that this augment can be pretty decent value. Like Feed the Flames can be decent value on these comps. Last patch it was something like Tryndamere, right? Like Tryndamere was another good example where it's like if you're looking for an early to mid game like tempo augment, you get the item, you get the nice combat effect as well for your carry. I think that this can be a fine option. Um, All that is to say, though, that in this spot, I don't think I would be taking it because I don't think you have very clear direction towards one of those like melee comps that get that get the most value out of the lifesteal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, woven magic.
Um,
Interesting.
okay, they ended up taking Silkos. Okay, so they ended up being okay with forcing Echo. Yeah, that is very interesting. Um, I I think it's debatable. I mean, this augment is very strong, like extremely powerful. I'm not sure if I would be as willing to like force Echo, but I think a lot of people are very different in their in their preferences like that. Um,
So, what component
mhm.
would you want prio off carousel if you take Echo? Like Hodge is less good than BT, but I assume you just, I guess you prioritize bow first, but then do you
Yeah,
want to try to at least have Hodge ready? Because you could end up in a situation by 3-2 where you like have maybe just one item you can slam.
yeah. It's definitely a little scary. In my opinion, I think you go bow. I think you go bow. I think Titans is
Yeah, mandatory.
probably the most. Yeah, I really think Titans is like one of the most, if not the most essential item on Echo. Um, but I also think that the fact that you're not slamming something on 2-5, yes, is a bit of a concern. But I think with the start that you have right now, I think that you're likely to be losing early. It's very likely, and this player is obviously okay with that. So I think that generally then you will just be leaning bow on carousel. That would be my priority.
Okay.
Um, you could take something like Hodge or JG, I guess, if you're really looking to slam an item. Like, let's say you high roll a double Echo Shop and then you are winning, you want to win post carousel, then you might consider taking like a JG, for example. But I think most of the time, if you're sacking, you'll be taking bow. Um, I do want to make one more note, by the way, about like augments like Feed the Flames and Prize Fighter that give an item. These augments, like I think the best example right now is Bilgewater. Like if you have the one item opener on this portal, but you or in this game, but you have a Twisted Fate that you really want to unlock Graves, that heavily incentivizes like taking like the augments that can give you a full item, right? That would actually incentivize prize fighter over woven in this case a little bit, right? Because it
Right.
would let you instantly unlock the grave. So I do think like considering unlocks is worth noting. And in like I said, in this meta, it happens to be Bilgewater, but like in last patch, it might have been like Tryndamere. In the future, it might be something else, right? So it might be like Viego, who knows? So,
Yeah,
um,
makes sense.
but yeah, no, it was funny because I noticed a lot of my decisions were like different from very different from when I was trying this app like last week. There were a lot of times when I was surprised. I was very surprised by what people were picking. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we have Rage Blade Slam. We don't
Mhm.
have a TF. Well, I guess we don't know what Void is right now. We're hoping to be able
Mhm.
to eventually get to that information. Probably not left. What are you willing to
Yeah.
play savings accounts into right now? Like uh GP?
Yeah,
Uh
I think you definitely could do Slayers. I've seen that. I think Slayers require a huge amount of gold. I think another one could be Kaisa, like Kaisa lines where you are typically it's like the four bruiser where you're playing Volibear as a duo, Rift Herald as tank, and Kaisa as your primary. Um, I think generally those are the comps, but um, I feel like you prefer to be tempoing in most cases now.
mhm,
And I think that savings account is I'm not a huge fan of it personally. I just feel like that it often incentivizes you to like make your board weaker, to like be making the interest more aggressively, right? And I think that I'm just not a huge fan of that personally.
mhm.
But sometimes it can be fine to take. I will admit. So, like for example, in this case, it is a gold opener. I think on gold openers, it's generally a little bit better savings account with the increased interest cap because you're able to get there faster. Um, so that's like something worth considering. Like on Scuttle Puddle, sometimes it could give you like a stupid amount of gold, and that could like push you to 9, or it could push you to 3 starring your board super quickly, whatever it may be. Um, in this case,
We could
um,
also do replication into Vagar if we hit Rod, right?
yeah, yeah, certainly could do that. I think that that is possible. I mean, you have the Rumble pair on bench as well. Um,
Or if we hit Belt, we could lean Volley.
yeah, I would kind of be thinking about trying to play Kaisa in this spot personally. I'm a big fan of like the Kaisa line just generally, but I think
Okay,
that
so savings account into Kaisa.
yeah, I think either of these would be fine, and the reason I would probably lean right is I just think that I just think we're not very strong right now, basically. And I would be willing to roll for void on 2-3 if necessary. If I miss Cho'Gath and Rasai from my natural
Oh,
shops.
but if you take this, you're still willing to roll for Void if you take this?
Yes, I know it's a little I know it seems a little counterintuitive, and yes, you're going to be putting yourself back on interest a bit, but you're pretty much always going to be cashing this out by 4-1, which I think is like the really important uh that's a really important like guideline for a savings account. Um and
Even if
also
you
just the fact,
roll for on
yeah, even if you spend like the rolls for Bard, and by the way, if you roll one time and hit Cho'Gath Rek'Sai in the first roll, I think you can consider stopping there, and like if it costs like one roll, but if you roll 3 times, that's probably going to be where it's like worth it to just roll the one extra time. But yes, I do think typically with savings account, um assuming you're greeting after 2-3, you're being pretty greedy with the econ and making the intervals. I think that it's generally going to be cashed out by 4-1. Yes, like after either on the neutral round or after the neutral round of stage 3. Um, so I feel like that's what I would lean personally. I
so
think that
take
just
this, roll 2-3 for Void and potentially Bard, then just go Kaisa Bruisers.
yeah, that's the way I would approach it.
Okay.
Yes.
Alternatively,
Um,
if we take this, we get Rod. That's easy line to take. What
mhm.
other components would we prioritize if we were going this one?
I think you could go bow. I think you could go bow for a red buff, plus an open bow for like void, for example. Um, into that
Still
would
into
likely
Void.
be into
Yeah.
that would likely be into void as well. Yes, and honestly, like I could kind of see that as well because you do have cog pair, you have Alawi plus Mundo. Like there's prospects for like if you hit cog 2, your board is honestly decent if you have the extra items. So I feel like bow could be a big hit there. You could also like take like let's say you don't hit the Yordle opener and you hit Cog 2 Cho in this 2-1 shop. You could also take like taking Rod and seeing that shop, you could just say I'll play Void also. Like I can make Ginsu Deathcap open Rod, like that sounds
Hmm.
pretty pleasant to me as well. Um I think that I'm trying to think about what else you could really take. You might be able to take something for Slayers, but I don't think so, right?
Glove.
It's probably a little too far. Yeah, yeah, that would likely be like Glove Sword, but I think it's a little bit too far.
But I
You don't
think
even
we saw
have
here is this guy's playing Slayers.
oh Rest Side 2 and GP. Okay, sure. Yep. Um yeah, that would likely dissuade you from that path. I really think something around Kog'Maw makes the most sense here, personally.
Okay.
So
How do you tiebreak between these two? Like, do you think in your head like this has just like a slightly higher AVP than this one? Um, if your board
mhm.
was stronger, I guess you would lean more in this direction. Like if you already had a Kog'Maw too.
Yes. Exactly. I think that's the indicator. I think it's my early game strength. Um, Obviously, items are going to be better for early game, and then they're going to be. I mean, they're obviously also good late game, but items are the best way to spike your board early, right? Like getting to like rushing to 2 or 3 items on your carry or tank. Um, I think in this case, I would lean savings account because I have confidence in Kaisa from like 8-9 lost spots. Like I have confidence in the comp to top 4 if you can hit Kaisa 2, Herald 2 on and unlock volley. So like that obviously requires like um usually it's like 1 or 2 belt items ideally. and a 3 item tank. Um, I think that if you're able to hit Kaisa 2, Herald 2 on 4-1, which savings account gives you a good chance of doing, I think that I'm confident in the line to do that. Assuming the void mods are good, by the way. I'm not sure what this
Yeah,
person's void
yeah.
mods are. Maybe they have the bad ones like Husk or whatever, but um, if the void mods are good, I would be happy with that. So I do think it's line dependent as well, right? Like for example, if you have Ionia opener and you're like, let's say it's like gold or SP Ionia, and you're not super like I'm not as confident in that comp from Lost Streak. Like that's just the way I feel about it. I don't think it's on the same power level. I don't think um I just don't think it suits the playstyle as well. Like just like generally with gold and SP Ionia, you're able to level and push levels like a bit more aggressively because you know you're getting econ back from the trait. Um and I think that's part of where the strength of the trait lies, of the strength of Ionia. For that reason, I feel I would be much more likely to take replication in that line, like that type of line where tempo is much more the way to go, and you don't really feel comfortable winning out or top forming from low HP spots.
Makes sense. The other thing I was thinking about in this spot is this seems like a really flexible 2-3 roll spot where we can hit a TF. Like I don't think we saw very many build players. I guess this guy could
Right.
still go
Maybe
build,
this
but
guy.
it seems like a better spot for Slayers. Although I guess his item components aren't amazing. Whoa.
Right. Right. They might be making Morello who on TF, not super sure, but yes.
Um like we can roll for TF here, we can roll for Void here, and we can also roll for
Mm-hmm.
Ishtal here.
Ishtal, exactly. Yeah, I think that that is generally a good plan. I would probably what my approach would be. I'd probably hold the field the Mundo and the Alawi, and I I mean you could hold the Nautilus. I'm not sure if I would like make 10 or roll
Well, if we
or
take
or,
this,
or,
we
or,
probably
or
want to make
Roach, but
10 on 2-1, right?
yeah, that's true. It gives you the four. I'm just not I'm not like 100% certain exactly how much gold the player has, but
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we probably could like calculate the exact value, but
Okay.
um I think it's probably a make 10 like somehow on 2-1 and take savings. Yeah, like that's the way I would go. Okay. So
Cool.
this player, yeah, it looks like they were probably thinking more between replication and savings account and then ultimately went with savings. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. All right.
Cool. How much time do you have left?
Um I have time. I'm happy to go as long as you like. So
Oh,
I have
cool.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, then
Whatever.
maybe
Yeah.
we do one more, and if you have the time, then we could do some of the stage 4 stuff.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay,
Let's do it.
cool. All right, so this is Scuttle with a void opener, not
Mhm.
left.
Yeah, I definitely want to take left. I really think bodyguard training is extremely strong, especially in econ portals. I think this augment is a very strong 2-1 combat. Um, the spots that you're willing to take 2-1 combat are rare, right? I think that I think the usual spot where you're willing to take it is when you are in an econ portal, so that's why I see it scuttle or like gold sub. I'm much more willing to take this because it makes up for the fact that you are lacking an econ augment on 2-1. Um, Another example might be like a gold opener. Like if you get like for example, the game we looked at the opener we looked at 2 openers ago where they had just the glove. So that implies they got dropped a ton of gold. Um, I think this augment is very powerful though, especially I really like it on Kaisa because you're often playing like such a big front line. I think you just get so much value from this augment. Um this augment is also really good with leeching nucleus because it gives like that like gunblade effect. Similar to how gunblade is good in Demacia, right? Like it's a similar idea where it has a lot of good synergies there as well. So I really like the void opener bodyguard training a lot. I like that a lot, and on Scuttle Puddle, I would want to take it for sure.
Okay, so this one is really good with void or just any bruiser setup. So this would also be good with like if you had belts and like a Scion LeBlanc opener to go
Yes.
into volley.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good as well. Honestly, I think it's just like it could be good on like Ionia, it could be good in it could be fine in Bilgewater. I think the comp that it's probably not as great in
Demacia.
is Demacia. Exactly, like
Yeah.
Demacia Defenders, but um otherwise I think it's just generally a pretty great combat augment. Yeah. Um and also I noticed the text is off a little bit, but
Yeah, it
it's like
is
it
buggy.
okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Um but yeah, I think I would be taking middle over right here. Right is we have zero pairs. We have one pair, and that's Blitzcrank, which isn't honestly the most impactful pair. And we kind of talked about item augments in general, but I just think that this is going to be a weaker early game. You're going to be playing for scaling. In this case, personally,
Okay.
that's my personal opinion. Yeah.
Yep. Same decision.
Okay. Great. Great. Awesome.
All right. Cool. Let's do stage 4 then.
All right.
All right. So just go through like maybe the ones that I didn't do as well.
Okay. Sure.
No, I want to focus on like level 8 comps.
Yeah. Works for me. Let's do it. Okay.
Okay, so this
Okay.
is the spot here.
Hmm.
I am full streaking. I had double econ here.
Hmm.
Maybe
Sorry, what's that first augment? It's a bit blurry for me.
uh yeah.
Okay, that's better.
Advanced
Advanced loan.
loan
Okay.
into is that placebo or
Hmm. Yeah, placebo.
um
Okay.
so my game plan here is I would like to get to Zig's Rise.
Hmm.
But I could also do Volley, though the Rage Plate's not really great for
Further.
that.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah, yeah,
So most likely I'm just trying to do Ziggs, in which case I'm not trying to roll much on 8. I'm willing to, given that I have the HP lead, I'm willing to just sack stage 4.
yeah.
Okay.
So personally, yeah, personally I agree. I think I would just not roll. I think you have an established front line. You have LeBlanc too as well. I think that um yes, you could like if you roll on 8, I feel like you're going to be leaning into the bruiser variation a bit more. Like bruiser rise volley bear type thing. Um because rolling on 8 will help you unlock Kennen. It will get you the fork like it'll get you Wukong and Tarek, which you do kind of need. Obviously you need that for both comps actually, but um I think that I think that it's just much better to go straight to 9 and play for Rise 6 here. I think you
Yeah.
can afford to do it. You can sack the entire stage and you can save HP while doing it, right? Because your board, again, the key is your board is already relatively decent for not having rolled a single time. You have upgraded frontline, you have an upgraded 3 item carry, and this will be enough to me to get you through the stage and play for first, basically, right? Like that's the idea. You're trying to play for the first in this spot where you're streaking with double econ. You natural upgrades. Your items for Ziggs are pretty decent so far. You have Ginsu GS. Looking to maybe make like one more, like maybe like a void staff or a gunblade or something like that.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be the way I would go about it personally.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's why I did this game.
Okay, great.
Is that what I did? How did I get here?
Oh, maybe you natural Azir. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Maybe you natural Azir at some point and you pivoted to that. That's what I'm suspecting.
Okay, I actually
Okay, you went
Oh, I got
malicious.
malicious.
You took
That's why.
malicious. Okay, I see.
How do you feel
I
about
see.
pushing to 9 with malicious then?
I think that's fine. I think if you take malicious, you should do that. Assuming you can add good value to your board, which you did with Wukong and Ari. Um, I'm a little surprised by the take. maybe you suspected there was okay, yeah.
I prefer Staff
Pers-
Smith then.
I would prefer it personally. Yeah, I do think it's a lot. Like Staff Smith in general is just incredibly strong. Like I think especially when you're playing um an AP comp, right? Like you're playing Ziggs, you're playing Rise, you're and Set. You're never gonna have a shortage of these types of items. Um, I have even seen I've even seen top players like take this on. I've seen Wajan Iverson do this. Like he's taken Staff Smith in the Slayer line and just like reforged the items, which I think goes to show like it's just the power of getting four components right from a gold augment is just incredibly strong. And he was even willing to do that because he was like, even if I get slightly subpar items, I'm still getting a ton of value out of four components. And that should go to show like how good it is if you're already playing AP as well, right? And like you can really just use pretty much any rod item. Um, that's personally the way I would go about it. I think that yes, malicious, you could take, but even with leveling to 9 and being 0 gold, your board is not that strong. Like you might be strong enough to beat like you're probably strong enough to beat like fast 9 boards, but if anybody has upgraded forecast, like let's say they have a normal Yunara 2 with like a 2-star tank, I think it's very unlikely you're going to be killing a lot of units.
Mhm.
Obviously I want to like I'm gonna give you credit. Like I'm sure that there was like some level of like maybe you like scouted and like you noticed some people were weak in your pool, like things like that. That's like often something you want to look out for with malicious. But um I think generally the staffsmith will be the much higher like it'll actually be the much higher win rate play in my opinion.
Yeah.
It'll be and I do think this is definitely a spot where you really want to be thinking about first, right? It's just going super well for you, and I think that this is the type of spot where you really need to be thinking about how to capitalize, right? It's your turn to go first this game, so you really want to capitalize on that and maximize your chance of that. And I think taking the two rod items would be really nice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right,
Mhm.
let's go to the next one.
All right.
All right, this is spreading roots bilge with replication.
Mhm.
I'll go to 3-7. I'm healthy.
Okay.
Um, I could go either bilge or Ionia here. I forget what the
Ionia.
Ionia
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I feel I would be leaning Ionia a bit more personally. I think you can actually play both of these. Like you can play Draven Swain on 8 and you get Gnosis for free. Um and obviously Ionia is like a bonus. I think obviously Bilge is a great line. I do think that the fact that you can use both emblems in the Ionia line here really pushes me towards that. Um Perhaps the Ionia was not super great for you this game. I'm not certain, but um I still think that the strength of being able to actually use both of the emblems is pretty valuable. Like having them contribute towards your traits, right? Like I think that that is definitely worth thinking about, and that might make me a little more willing to play Yunara in this case.
Okay. And so if Yunara is the game plan, it's roll 4-2. Ideally, probably econ augment. Uh,
Yeah.
like reinforcements seems like it would be good here.
Hmm.
And then I'm basically trying to roll until I hit like at least probably a 2-star Yunara or 2-star like 4-cost tank.
Yes, I would certainly be willing to roll deep for those. Yes. I think um I would be careful about just like sending it to like zero interest, but
Right.
because I do think at your spot in 82 HP, you can afford to roll to maybe 10, 20, like depending on what you find during the roll. But yes, I would want to find at least 1-star copies of like my board. So like it could be like a Swain 1, Yunara 1, Wukong 1, which I think you can be expected to see like one copy, like with how much gold you have, assuming you don't hit an econ augment, you could realistically expect that. Um, Certainly, you can expect it with an econ augment from here as well. But I yeah, I would probably be rolling for that. And here you make a Titan, so I think you probably are thinking about this comp now. Okay.
Oh, but I was not. I was thinking about the 5 Ionia variant. I wasn't thinking about using Draven, which I. Oh wait, put
Oh
Draven.
no, yeah, no. I would actually still. I would be playing the 5 Ionia. It's just Swain Draven are just commonly played on 8 anyway. So like
Oh, okay, just as a
you just get a
transition.
free. Right, exactly. And then
Yeah.
later on, you would certainly drop it would certainly be worth to drop the Draven for Kindred. Like I think if you get Kindred, you should play it. Like her ult is still probably better than the value that the three Noxus provides.
Mhm.
But Swain is like almost always like I think Swain is just like you should almost always buy this unit on the roll down because you play him with Shyvana at cap, but also he just fits well with Ari as well. So it's just another forecast tank that you can just play on your board,
Yeah.
and provide value. The AP to Yunara and Set is not a bad thing at all. It's not. It's certainly not bad to have, basically. So I would say like just the fact that you can use that on 8 at least, the Gnosis emblem is another like bonus. Yeah, for playing Ionia.
Okay. So invested gives me gold here, and I am healthy enough to sit. Or I feel like Call to Chaos just gives us so many high roll options.
Yeah. Personally, I would take Call to Chaos. I think I think you would prefer to just you would prefer to roll now. I really think with Ionia. I think
Mm-hmm.
that sacking 2 here. I mean, yes, you are 73, but that HP does go fast, especially if you are sacking the next 2. So I really like Call personally. Okay, and it leveled you to 8. So okay.
And so now, are we rolling here, or are we?
I I would be rolling for sure. Yeah, personally. I think this like even if you were to level in 2 turns, you are maybe rolling. Sorry, does that say 23 out of 68?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you would be rolling roughly 40 gold. Maybe I'm off by a bit. Maybe a little more, maybe 50 gold, but on 9. I think that just rolling now, hitting your whole board, and then being able to 9 on 5-1, 5-2 is completely fine. And I think if you do, like with this much gold for Ionia, considering the fact that you have the Nautilus on board, that's 8, the Graves, which is 5, you have 3 from the Briar, you have roughly 20 gold on your board that you can sell.
Mm-hmm.
I think you are very likely to hit Unara 2 with a 2-star tank. And I think if you hit that on 4-2 with your item quality, I think you are guaranteed. I don't want to say guaranteed, but you're very likely top 4. Very, very likely top 4. And the XP you will use eventually. You'll use it eventually to go 9 after hitting on 4-2. That's the idea. Maybe if you hit super quickly, you could like 9 on 4-5, but that's probably like unlikely.
Okay. So I think I probably waited to
Mhm.
4-5, and then probably
Okay,
didn't hit
you
everything.
did have a lot of gold. You did have a little more than I expected. So I guess I forgot to. I think it is XP Ionia because your interval is.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Right, because that. Yeah, okay, it is. But yeah. I mean, honestly, you did have more gold than I thought you would. I think that.
Although not hitting the Yanara 2 here, like you said, I probably would have hit Yanara 2 if I rolled earlier, and this
Right,
just increases my
right.
variance.
Right. I think another factor as well is like if you're contested, I'm not sure if that was the case this game. But if you were contested as well and there's other people looking for Yunara Wukong, I would certainly be wanting to roll on 8 as well. I think it's that double adaptive Wukong game at the bottom here. Yeah, that one. Okay, it looked like it was relatively uncontested, so that's fine then. I'm sure you had like that in mind, but that's definitely something you want to make note of is contests. But yeah, I think it's also just the line you're playing, right? The line you're playing you're rarely going to win the game on this line. That's just the reality. And I think that it's fine to accept that, and kind of this is just an important lesson in general, but based on the comp that you're playing, there are certain comps that are just level 8 comps and certain comps that are level 9 comps, right? Like Rise Ziggs, you have to roll a 9. But I think the like in a comp like Ionia, the 4 costs are such a crucial part. They are like the Yunara 2 and the 2 cost tank are so important that I think that just rolling, hitting your whole board on 8 is completely fine. And like I said, you might feel a little bit like you're wasting the extra like 20 XP or so that spilled over, but you will go 9 eventually this game. Like that's like almost certain, right? Unless you like egregiously low roll on level 8, you once you don't hit 2-star anything, maybe you'll be stuck on 8 for a while, but the odds are with how much gold you like roughly 80 gold on 4-2, you just hit everything on 4-2, you win 4-2 and 4-3. I just think that's much better. Yeah, I think that's much better than
Yeah,
going to 9.
would have been
Mhm.
guaranteed higher placement here. Okay.
Right. Hmm.
Okay. This is. Oh, I was still trying to play this singed variant
The
with this
Juggernaut
deck.
version. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But now I'm
Okay,
not playing
okay.
that anymore.
I could see it with like Cho 3, to be fair. I could
Okay,
see it
yeah,
at
yeah.
least temporarily, yeah.
So from this spot, I'm just hoping for an econ augment on 4-2. I'm just donkeying. I need to find. Well, I don't have enough gold to hit Kaisa 2, right? So it's just one copy and stop. I guess Rift Herald
I
2.
yeah, you do have Rift Mundo pair. I would be thinking about rolling at least a little bit, personally. My assessment would be it's like a scout, right? Like if I scout and I see super strong players in my pool, like, and I suspect I could lose, then I would be concerned. But I think at this point of the game, it's likely that Kaisa won with 3 items and Cho 3 with a couple items. It's likely that you could just win against most boards. So it would really just depend if you're under that threat, right? Because if you're under any threat of losing a life on 4-1, which is possible, but it's unlikely but possible, I would say you just have to roll for something. You have to roll for like Herald 2, or Mundo 2 even, or if you high roll Kaisa, then great. But just something, right? Swain would help on your board. Singe 2 would help. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of outs.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I rolled on 4-2. Oh, I high rolled the Kaisa.
Okay,
Um,
that's awesome.
is Rift Herald stronger than a Cho 3 for items here?
I don't think it is. I don't think it's stronger. Yeah, I think
Especially
that
if I have 4
for
jug.
right, for now it would be 4 jug. I still think even with Cho 3, I think you eventually want to get to Herald 2 with 4 Bruiser because of Volibear, right? Like Volibear is
Yeah.
the real key. He's like the easy and accessible duo carry that you can get on level 8, that slots into this board. So I would eventually want to get to 4 Bruiser Volley 2. But I think for now the Cho'Gath should be stronger. Cho'Gath 3 with 4 jug. I think it's slightly stronger.
Okay. And then as far as items go,
Hmm.
I like redemption, but we're lacking shred. And from an item economy standpoint, spark or I guess it's spark redemption, or no, I guess that would leave Hodge. You would want
Yeah, yeah.
arc, rage blade, gunblade for Kaisa, but then that leaves okay,
I
redemption.
yeah, I think that's what I would do. I think you have to make arc. I think you have to make a Kaisa item here, no matter what, at any cost, even if that costs you your shred. And making arc is generally fine, I think, because it leaves your cloak and glove open. So like your open components are good then, right? You could take a lucky glove or you could take a spark, right? Like that's like the two directions ideally. Um, I think that just sounds fine. And yes, you're going to be down shred for the next 3 rounds, but to be honest, I would be surprised if with Kaisa 2, Herald 2, I would be surprised if you are losing the next 3 fights. that would surprise me. I obviously I don't want to say for it's impossible to say for sure, but I think with 3 item Kaisa, 2 item Herald, it's unlikely.
Okay. What do you think about the path that I actually took, which is the most item economy efficient, but I
Mhm.
guess is weaker later without the arc?
JG Redemption, and then I think this is honestly fine because then you have an extra out. Oh, okay, you slam Helm as well. Okay, that's fine. Um, I think this is fine. I The reason I prefer the other option is first of all, I just like the sound of open cloak, open glove. I think that is pretty acceptable. I also think that the again it goes back to like the likeliness that your board is stable for the next 3 rounds is very high. When in my experience of playing this line, uh, obviously it's a double prismatic lobby. Who knows what insane setups people might have, but I really think that with the 3 item Kaisa, and making Archangel and then having the cloak glove open, I think that's important. Like it really helps your future, and like 4-5 and 4-6, which is when you might start to struggle. Is when like kind of delaying your spike till then for a better item is to me intuitively better in the spot. Again, it's all because of how strong you are now, right? And you can actually afford to be a bit greedy in the spot.
Yeah.
Um, if you load in against the strongest stage 4 board you ever seen, like let's say they have just a bunch of 2-star 4 costs, or maybe they're who knows what could happen in a double pris lobby. Um, then that's when it's like a bit more reasonable to just like slam everything. But I think I would probably be a bit more greedy here. I think you kind of need to try to be looking for um better items in Spark, like Shred, or like getting more value from your Lucky Gloves as well. Like that's like another like important thing. Is like
Hmm.
you need to be trying to greed for more value from your prismatic.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
Let's see this one. Okay, another void spot.
Okay.
This one we
You
have
double
double
econ.
econ basically.
Hmm.
Um, if I recall correctly, this one I was one way contested void.
Okay.
Uh, but I think I have more gold than him, but obviously less HP. I think it was actually
Right.
this guy, actually, the second to the last guy.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and it's Scuttle. So
Hmm.
I was thinking, like, if I want to save HP, it's unlock Kaisa on 4-1. But if I want
Yeah.
to really greed it, I guess I either way I probably unlock Kaisa on 4-1. Oh no, I'm
Right. You would
unlocking
always
Kaisa right now. Actually, I didn't even realize I'm
yeah,
leveling.
yeah. You leveled
Um,
on neutral. You would always do this, right? Hmm.
I think the question is, do I roll on 4-1 or do I try greed triple econ and go straight to Baron?
Yeah. Great question. I am really of the opinion that you should just roll. I think going straight to Baron is quite risky because even if even if you hit a very like a, a premium prismatic econ, like let's say you hit the best case, like call to chaos XP or gold. I think that might be the most gold on 4-2, like immediately on 4-2 possible.
Mm-hmm.
Off the top of my head. I think even if you hit that, you're going to level 10 with such little gold that it's just super risky. It's super risky because are you're definitely not guaranteed to hit Herald 2, Kaiser 2, definitely not guaranteed to hit Baron 2. And I think with triple econ and having full 1 stars, just Baron isn't enough, like very often. I think you need to have enough gold to actually 2-star the units. And I just think that typically that's going to be when you have a prismatic econ on 2-1, like something level up in upper mobility, right? Like these things that multiply in value on Scuttle or Gold Zone. They scale multiplicatively with like these portals, right? Um, I think that's going to be typically when you have more like enough gold um consider playing for Baron. But I really think otherwise, like in this spot, I would be sending on 8. I would really be sending on an 8. And I would still have confidence in your cap because this variant, like the reason this variant is strong is because it's less risky than Baron. It lets you roll on 8 for multiple good forecasts, Swain, Herald, Kaisa. And then it also has a high cap on 9. Like it caps around Bear, it caps around Ziggs. I've had games where I played this line and I win streak stage 4, and then I eventually made it to 10. And I capped around Baron actually. Like you can do that like a super late Baron, right? But I think that this comp your approach should be, unless I can go 10 with enough like reliably as well. Like you're kind of banking on, if you don't hit a prismatic econ on 4-2, I feel like you're in a lot of trouble, right? And I think that just banking on that and letting the contester roll before you on 4-1 is a mistake. That sounds like a mistake to me.
Okay. Yeah, that is exactly what happened. Is I did not hit the thing, and then he rolled first. I missed my Kaisa 2. I eventually
I
hit the
see.
Kaisa 2, but then yeah,
Mhm.
at that point I was lost too much tempo.
I see. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so
Um,
your read was exactly spot on.
okay. Yeah, no problem. No problem. That should be like, that should be an easy fix for next time. So
Yep.
that's a good like learning point. Yeah.
I think these were both echo. Let me see.
Okay.
All right, spreading roots, Demacia. I'm tempoing in. I'm super poor here. Um, this a
Mhm.
4-5 angle. I don't think I'm contested to this game.
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
Unless I hit an econ augment.
Right. Economy would be the highest priority here. I think letting yourself 4-2 would be really ideal. I mean, I think I feel with your HP, you might have to level for like any addition. If you hit anything such as like um if you natural Lesser Garen in the next one or two shops, that could be one thing. Another thing could be like Lysandra. It could be like it could be two Piltover. Like it could be really anything to add to your board. But I think sacking these 3 rounds when playing Demacia is just not allowed when you are at this HP. That's basically my gut instinct. But
What HP
I
are
I
you
I,
willing to greed more? Like 80
I
plus?
mhm. Yeah, I think that's generally good. Like I would even go as far to say maybe like 85 or 90 ideally, but
Okay.
obviously obviously yes. I do think 80 plus is like, if I had to put a number on it, that would probably be where I feel more comfortable doing this, but I just think that level 8 AP Demacia is fine. It's a fine tempo comp, but again, it's similar to Ionia where it's like you just can't afford to be greedy, and you need to be if not winning stage 4 fights, you need to be killing as many as possible. I really think that to be the case, and even if you 4-5, you're not going to be super rich, and you're probably not going to be like winning out from there, right? So I think that I would try to do anything I can to level for any value on 4-2, and maybe just like sit for a bit, but just like try to have the maximum board strength possible. Okay. Um,
So I really want
all right.
prio econ.
Mm-hmm.
So malicious is a form of econ. But I'm not like killing that many
Yeah.
units probably.
Right. I think what I would do here is, it's like a mandatory scout. You have to see if, because malicious could be actually, it could actually be good here if you scout and you see that people are playing like Yordles to 9, or like people are playing
Yeah.
like remember the game you played where you were playing LeBlanc? Like if they like win streaked around LeBlanc and then they're just like going straight to 9, they're not rolling.
Uh,
Um malicious actually you actually can get away with taking that in these spots. And like sometimes when I've been in the spot where I'm like desperate for econ, it's just like a mandatory you have to scout and see, because if all of these players are sending it on level 8, sending it for Kaisa, Yunara, and there's just no chance, like with how much gold you have, there's no chance you can win. Like that's unfortunately the reality with unless you like roll once and hit like guarantee, like something like that, right? But I think that it's going to be really dependent on your initial pool of matchups, whether or not you are actually able to take this.
So how let's say, well, what is the break even point of like players that are weak versus strong that you're willing to take this? Like if it's, let's say it's like
Yeah,
around
yeah,
1.5, like maybe one of them I can beat, one of them it's like I can kill half their board. Like
half.
where would you draw
Yeah,
the
yeah.
line on whether you take this versus another augment?
I if I had to put a quantity on it, I think 1.5 sounds like a decent number. If I'm like super desperate, if I'm super desperate for econ, I think it's a decent number because um if you fight the two of the three where you're going to be farming um at least 8 gold, like let's say you fight the person where you kill half, you kill 4 units, at least 8 if not more if you fight the guy that the player that you win against. That's like obviously the best case, and then you try to use that gold to snowball. I think like if you're able to do that in 2 out of 3 of the matchups, I think that is good enough if you're super desperate for econ. Personally, I it's hard to put an exact like it's hard to put an exact number because yeah, I just don't feel like super confident putting an exact like value on it. But to me, one point like 2 of the matchups where it's reasonable that you can kill a good amount, um, I think that's when it's like worth considering and takeable. Yeah. So in terms of like alternatives, like the other augments I saw weren't the best either. If I'm being honest, like at least at a glance, certainly not left or right, but big grab bag is probably takeable, and then you could also use that to reforge the Zon emblem 3 times and maybe
Hmm.
be very likely to hit something usable. So I think grab bag was probably safe. It gives 2 gold as well, which is something. But I think that this is probably a spot like I didn't really see the early game obviously, but it's probably a spot where you're saying that you're playing for like somewhere around the range of like sixth to fourth. Like I think you want to like settle for that in the spot because you came out of the game from a tempo spot where you weren't super healthy or super rich, right? Like that's like
Mhm.
generally the spots where you're going to be trying to scrape for a top 4 on level 8. Um, so yeah, malicious, yes. I mean, I feel like if I were playing like a tournament, I would in a lot of scenarios, I would actually be more willing to take malicious because it's just like you just have sometimes you just have to take the chance.
Increase
But
the variance and go for the upside.
right, especially if your spot is bad, right? Like
Yeah.
that's especially going to be the case in a tournament. But I think for this is just like a general thing, like for the approach of ladder, like obviously like well, I don't want to assume anything, but I assume your goal in the long term is to like climb
Yeah.
LP and
Which
like
means you want to
play for
decrease variance in
snapshots.
ladder.
Right, exactly, exactly, and I think that taking the the more consistent path will be um the best for that long term goal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think I took malicious, but then I got some high roll matchups. I don't even think I
Okay,
scouted. I think I just saw it. Oh, this was a game that was on
that's
VC, and wasn't. There were a lot of voices, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna
sure,
snap
sure.
this off. But it is
No,
actually a
that's
LeBlanc
completely
player.
fine. That's completely fine. And yes, yes, yeah. Like
I
if
didn't
I
even kill
see like
anything there. Killed
okay,
some,
got it. Yeah, yeah.
lost
Here you kill
two,
some
and I think this fight I hit Lux too. So then
plus 2.
I killed.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, like that's probably good enough. Like to go like fourth or fifth. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean that was pretty
probably
much
fine.
exactly your break even point. I faced one weak guy, and then I
Mhm.
kind of killed a few units on the rest of the fights.
Right, right. And sometimes like again, obviously you're not going to win the game from there, but that like you just need that gold, right? So like if you're desperate in this spot, like I think it's generally that was generally fine. Yeah. Um, I will say like yeah, not reforging the Zon is like a big deal, but I think you did do it at some point, but I think that was probably a super important key as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's a good point. All right. Maybe we try to do one more and then call it.
Sure, works for me. Works for me. Let's do it.
Eh, oh, this is Ishtal.
Okay,
Okay, this is not that
upper
relevant.
mobility.
Let me
Okay,
go with this one then.
all right. Lifting competition. Okay.
Okay, 3-7. Um, I believe I should be unlocking volley soon. I
Mhm.
I assume I'm just gonna do standard 4-2 and try to hit Lissandra 2, maybe high roll a Zillion, find
Yeah.
Wukong and stabilize that way.
Yeah, yeah. You are a bit poor, but the nice thing is lifting competition will give you. I'm assuming you are at the cash out, like you're at the I think it's the 14,000 HP cash out
Yeah,
where
gives me
you
more
it
gold.
gives you gold, right? Yeah. So I think it would generally be fine to level on 4-2, roll for 6 bruiser, unlock volley bear that way as well. And then after you get the gold on 4-3, you would be rolling for 2-star 4 costs, any other upgrades, probably a Freljord as well would be ideal, and then trying to go 9 from there. Yeah.
How
That
deep
sounds good
are
to
we
me.
willing to roll? I assume we roll as long as we still have pairs and it's efficient. But don't, let's say I low roll and I don't hit any Lissandra pairs. I assume with this amount of health, I
Mhm.
can stop at like 20.
Yeah, I think no Lissandra pair you can afford to stop at 20 at like and then probably around 4 or 5 is when I would start like getting urgency to like want to like send to like maybe deeper, assuming I still don't have the pair.
Mhm.
Um I I feel like yes though, like yeah, this game you have um more of a buffer in terms of HP. You also have like the guaranteed econ coming in from the augment. So
Right.
I think I think it would generally be okay to be sitting around 20 if you don't hit the Lissandra pair. I think I agree with that.
Okay. This gives me more items and lets me itemize volley. This
Yeah.
also seems good because I'm playing a lot of low cost bruisers.
Yeah. Honestly, for little buddies, I'm not as big of a fan because I do think like ideally you want to drop 2-4 bruiser like eventually. Like I
Mm,
don't think I think you just want to play 6 to cash out the final cash out, and then you want to drop it for like later on it'll be rise, right? Like ideally, but it could be for like 4 bruiser, 4 invoker on 8, like something like that, or it could be for like a Freljordian, or it could be for Tarek 2, like things like that. So I really like exclusive a lot. Um I just think the 10 gold is like is honestly the part that you really like here.
mm.
Like that is really really nice, and obviously the item chest is a super nice bonus. But I feel that you could really use the 10 gold with how much you have at the moment.
Okay. I think this was the first time I was playing lifting competitions. I didn't realize I wanted to drop out of this stuff later. Oh, okay. I still made the
That's okay. That's
decision.
okay. Yeah, you still took it. That's good. Yeah.
So here we have Lissandra pair. We're on one loss, and we
Mhm.
don't have the volley. Figure we just sit.
I think sitting 1 is fine this turn, and then next turn I would want to roll very deep for Wukong and or Lissandra because proccing the cash out is super valuable, right? It'll the earlier you proc it, you will make the goal back, right? Like
Yeah.
you will make the goal back from sending it, and you will save lives by doing like you'll save you'll save HP, some of your own HP from doing that as
Yeah,
well.
that makes sense. And
Yeah,
then
to me, mhm.
this is a Natcher Slam and Spark, probably.
Yeah, that looks really good to me. I was gonna say that Nashor Spark, and then I would probably be looking for something like obviously a volley item. I feel like I would probably put the Spark with the double visage, and then I would probably go Crown Guard, Sterax +1 on volley for now. Obviously, the Crown Guard wants to get off of him eventually, but
What's the thought process behind Crown Guard as opposed to, or I guess Scion just has that much HP and you prefer to keep it
yeah,
low?
yeah, I think it's that. I also think like Volibear, his after he transforms, the lightning strikes that he uses, like they do scale off AP, I believe.
Oh,
I think that um also like Crown Guard is just like a bad item on Wukong, which is often your tank because
right.
he he doesn't have the best AP scaling immediately, and then also the clone doesn't get value out of Crown Guard. As opposed to like the clone gets value from like Visage and Sterax and Warmoths, right? It gets a lot more value from like these types of items.
Yeah. Okay. And then from this spot where I assume we're just sitting, like Wukong's not important enough to keep rolling. And we're probably reasonably strong.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yes, Lysandra 2 plus a Bruiser. I'm happy to sit for now. Yeah, I think this is fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I think that helps me answer a lot of these questions. So I think if
All right.
we kind of
Awesome.
look at big picture across these games,
Hmm.
I think some of my takeaways are in uh, stop rolling depends on my HP, and then also even just like item slams, like that one void example depends on HP. I gotta pay more
Yes.
attention
Yeah.
to my HP informing how much I'm greeting versus not.
Right. It
And
depends on it.
mhm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah, go ahead.
it it depends a lot on your HP for sure. It depends on the strength of your board as well, relative to others, right? Like this also factored into like the malicious choice, right? Like
Yeah,
you want to be making these decisions also based on the strength of your pool, right? Like because especially in a fast night like where there's very often people playing yordles and like going fast line, like even bilgewater players, they're playing a lot of times they're playing 7 bilge this stage and they might be like kind of weaker because of that. They're not playing like extra traits. So really being diligent about that and trying to inform your decisions based on that will open up more opportunities. Like for again, malicious is a great example where it's like scouting can really open up a spot where like you feel like you can just never take malicious. Like it could open up that opportunity for you. So I would really emphasize that as well.
gotcha. And then I think
Mhm.
another point is understand my board's cap and what kind of placement I'm going for. I think that applied to the
Mhm.
Ionia line. Um,
Exactly.
example, Ionia or what was the other
Even
board?
The AP
Oh, right,
Demacia line
AB
kind of. Yeah.
Demacia.
Hmm.
Um, these are level 8 boards that want to win stage 4. So then I'm
Hmm.
willing to roll more deeply as opposed to if
Exactly.
the Ziggs Rise board. If I know it, if No can play for first and healthy, then more willing to.
Exactly. Then you're way more willing to sack this. Yeah, exactly. You can afford to sack stage 4. Hmm.
Okay. Anything else that jumped out to you that I didn't capture in these takeaways?
From what I could see, from what I could tell, I think that was those were generally the yeah those are generally the big takeaways is making informed decisions, right? And so this might apply to like other moments in the game that will come up. So I I would just recommend trying to apply this like concept of like making decisions based on the strength of your board versus relative to your pool, right? Like, I mean, you wrote it down well, or you described it well when you wrote it down in your notes. But I think that this concept is very key, and the players that are able to do everything they need to do and then do this on top of it are the ones that are going to be making the best decisions at the highest level. So
Mm,
trying to really like emphasize this skill and really practice it and be conscious of it will help you a lot. Like I'm very confident it will help you a lot. Um, I think that the other thing that I that we like didn't really cover is just like general like execution. I like execution in terms of like roll downs and positioning and scouting. I
Mhm.
think that that's like also another thing to like be mindful of. I think that these execution things are very important. Like um I think that they can give you an edge when if you're scouting and positioning every single fight, and like even if you're making slightly, if your decisions are slightly off that game, you can make up for that by out positioning every and like positioning diligently and not losing like free rounds, right? Like obviously I'm not saying that you're like positioning terribly or like losing free rounds all the time, but that's just something that like we didn't really like cover, and I think that that's like a very important thing to be mindful of is you you really want to try to gain that advantage to give yourself as much of an advantage and like as much like leeway as possible, I guess you could say, by winning fights you shouldn't win or saving HP in fights where you shouldn't be saving HP.
Mhm.
So I don't know, maybe that's something that you cover in like another session, or like that you like review yourself. But I that is something that we didn't talk about, that I if you're not like super you haven't thought about it too much, I would heavily recommend like thinking about that as well.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Um,
One other question
mhm.
actually about this lifting competition. Are you still trying
Yeah,
to end
yeah.
up in the standard volley rise board?
Yeah, I think Volley Rise is the ideal. It can be like a little hard to unlock cannons. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If you hit Kabuko 2, Shen 2, Wukong 2 on 8, like that can make it really easy, because then you just have to play like then you can just play a Yordle slash defender on neutrals and unlock him. Um,
It
but
feels kind of wasteful though to sell a huge Scion though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm saying like you don't have to play Kennen this stage necessarily, but it's just like I think playing 6 to 4 Bruiser for the stage is completely fine. I would just be playing the Freljord over
Yeah,
LeBlanc in
but
this
let's say
case.
you get
But
to 9. Are you
on
willing to sell this to go for that standard Kennen Kobuko rise board?
I, I would be, if I had the goal to hit either Wukong 2 or Terra 2, it would be better than the Scion.
Okay.
It would just be better, yeah. And the value of playing Kabuko for Yordle, Shen and Wukong for Ionia when you're capping around the rise is just too high. That it will heavily outvalue the Scion, because even with like let's assume you're at like plus like 800, maybe plus 1k HP. I still think a Wukong 2 or a Terra 2 would outperform that Scion, even a Scion 2 with that much HP. So I think ideally you want to be capping around that. The other like way to play this is if you have AD slams early and like you have like an AD opener. Typically it'll be around like Jin 2. I think it's fine to play for Yunara as like the carry of lifting competition, and it's definitely a little bit lower cap, but you're going to be playing around 4 Bruiser, so that's going to be Shen, Wukong, Volibear, Shen, Wukong, Volibear, and then plus 1. Very often it'll be like Kabuko as the best unit because he gives attack speed and healing, like utility. And then you can just like splash in Quick Striker. You can splash in Invoker like Zillion. You can play just like good legendary units, right? Like Senna is very common, like a backline carry. So probably like Senna, Kindred, Zillion, Yunara would be like the typical. And I think that version of lifting competition can also place decently, assuming you are tempoing from the early item slam. So I wouldn't be like afraid to slam AD early if it will help you get to 8 and 9 with higher HP, is basically what I'm trying to say. So like that's just like another way to play it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Last question I
awesome.
have for you, I guess, is just feedback on
Mhm.
TFT Dojo from what we did, and I guess your own personal experience. I want to get your thoughts and if you have any suggestions on how to make it better. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no. Honestly, yeah, no. It's a very cool. It's a very cool tool. I enjoy using it, and like I think I'll definitely use it to like warm up in the future. It's awesome. So thank you for that. I if I could give a suggestion or feedback, like maybe honestly, like it's just for my curiosity, but maybe other people feel this way as well, people that have used it. I'm curious, like in terms of like what end game board they end up on. I feel like that could
Yeah.
be like that could be a good learn like good for that could be like inducive for learning as well, right? Like so I just think that maybe if you could just get like a snapshot of their like end game board with like maybe their augments, I don't know, but okay, I guess you can't do augments actually, but
Yeah, we
because
don't want to get in
they're not
hot sauce with Riot. I've been
right,
there before.
exactly.
Um,
Totally understand that,
so
but
the reason that we've
mhm.
done this so far is we want to lean on the side of caution. But I
Uh-huh.
actually want to get your feedback on this because we are pulling data from tier one players right now. I think most of
Mhm.
the hesitance is if there's player lashback, which then could result in Riot lashback
I see.
around anonymity. And I think we're actually considering removing anonymity, which would allow us to just provide a link to the VOD. Um,
I
to
see.
what
Okay.
extent do you feel like you or other tier one players would be okay or not okay with that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, for me personally, I just feel like well, if it's somebody with a VOD and they have it public, they haven't gone out of their way to take the VOD or make the VOD private, right?
mhm,
I feel like I would, I feel like if it were me at least, I would be okay with that, personally. Like I wouldn't, if I wanted to hide something, for some reason, I would make my VOD private then.
yeah,
But maybe people don't think about that, to be fair. I'm not sure what goes through like everybody's mind. But yeah, I feel that it should be okay in most cases like that where the VOD is public. Um, but I can't really speak for everyone, right? Like I don't really know what, for example, what like Dish Soap or Wasian might think about that. But
yeah,
like the thing is like I mean you could also pull like these from Meta TFT like VOD library, right? Like
yeah.
I feel like these games are somewhere
It's
because
like
even in
technically
the Met
public domain.
right, exactly. Like the Meta TFT replay library,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that takes games from even off stream. So like
yeah.
I I feel like somebody like people can get access to this anyway if they really want to.
Yep.
And so to me it seems like a bit to me it seems like a bit pointless to like really as like the tier 1 player that might be like uh being made like the example in the TFT dojo. I just don't think it's like a big deal personally. Like I think also like a lot of time people are just trying stuff like and are you never really know if they're actually like trying to pick the best thing or if like oh hey I want to try lifting competition this game or I want to try um the Noxus augment this game. Like you never really know. So I feel like it's completely fine to me. Yeah, that's like
Okay.
my take on it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's where we're leaning. So at the very least, I think we'll probably expose VODs so you could figure out what comp, but it's on our list to
Mhm.
show the end comp.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah, and yeah. I mean, I think it would be like you're asking me. It would probably be like good to just like yeah get ask as many as possible and just like see the
Yeah, at the
different
very least, I
perspectives.
think
But
we'll
yeah,
offer the ability for if someone's not comfortable with it, that we would just remove their VODs or allow it to be anonymous for people that want it to be. Kind of like
yeah,
right now
yeah,
with
yeah,
actual Riot, you can do that, right?
yeah. Is that yeah? Honestly, that sounds like a very reasonable approach as well. Yeah. So because yeah, I mean, reaching out to like obviously there's like a limited number of tier 1 players and reaching out to specific like however many players should be doable. I mean I don't want to like say like it's doable but it sounds like feasible to me at least, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. This was super
All
helpful.
right,
I really appreciate it.
awesome. Yeah, no problem, man. I'm happy to get back into it whenever you would like, so
Sounds good.
just let me know.
All
Yeah.
right. Talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good. Take care. Bye.